So now I'd like to cover competitive separation and deduplication. So everybody who started out watching connected television in the early days will know of this common problem, and that's that you keep seeing the same ad over and over and over. It's still pretty relevant today, depending on the technology that's here in the background, because every layer has a play here in deduplication and competitive separation. But let me just walk you through what these are. So deduplication is with the same ad, right? So you want to make sure that you're not showing the same ad over and over again to the same user for various reasons. It could be that the brand doesn't want to show that. It could be that the CTV streamer or manufacturer doesn't want that to be their user experience. But either way, you want to make sure that the media file is unique. The reason that this is a problem today in CTV is because there isn't a universal advertising ID. So you have all of these requests going out, all of the responses coming back, and a certain creative could be labeled as something completely different through any of these pipes. And because of that, it's difficult to know whether or not that ad has played or not. So what you could do is you could normalize the media file URL to something that is more standardized and deduplicate based on the media file URL alone. But that only goes so far. That's going to catch the majority of the cases, but not all of them. So what we need to have to make this as good as it possibly could be, as good as it is in traditional linear television, is a universal advertising ID that everybody is using, right? So everybody registers an ID, everybody knows that ABC 123 is that L'Oreal ad, whatever one that is. And then it makes its way up to the ad server, so where the ad server can know that that's the ad that already got shown to this user within this session, within the last 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it may be. It's going to be better for frequency capping, which is great for the brands. It's going to be better for reach tracking, so we know who that ad reached and which ad it was. And then it can also, if you do it correctly, it's also going to be able to tell you where that ad went across different delivery mediums. Did that ad show to this user on their mobile device? Did that same ad show to this user on their connected television? So normalization there is really important, and it's something we don't have today. All right, competitive separation. This one's a little bit different. So what this is if you think of the old don't show a Coke ad next to a Pepsi ad, that's a classic one, right? These are the kind of controls that a brand wants and needs, and they currently have them in traditional linear television, right? You can say, this is all the brands I want to be served next to, this is what I don't want to be served next to, this is the show I want to be on, this is the show I don't want to be on. Like, they have all those controls. In CTV, it's more limited than that, right? So you have an IAB category, and you have an A domain. So an IB category is a list of categories. They can be things like automotive at the top level, and then get into things like automotive paint or automotive mechanics or things like that when you get into sub-levels. So those are IB categories. And then you have A domains, which are advertiser domains. So let's say on that automotive example, you might have fordmotors.com as the A domain that's relevant for that creative. So you may or may not notice this already, but there's already a problem, right? So if I'm Nike, as an example, and I don't want to be served next to Reebok and Adidas and all these other athletic brands, that's easy to do with IAB category, right? And then if I'm also declaring my A domain or my advertiser domain of Nike.com, which, by the way, only about 40 to 60% of the bids that I've seen come to the ad server level actually contain an advertiser domain. So already a big hole. So if you pass that through, if Nike comes through, then yes, you're going to make sure that there's not going to be 2 Nike ads within the same ad break, which is great. But what you don't have control over is Nike doesn't, or may not, I'm not sure what their brand rules are, but they might not want to be served next to high fat, sugar, and salt. So Nike could say, I don't want to be next to that fast food brand. I don't want to be next to that candy brand. That doesn't line up to what I think is my brand image. And they don't have those controls today. They also don't have a full list of that they can provide to say, I don't want to be served next to these other brands, these other A domains. They could do it if they have a direct sold campaign. They can say, like if they do a 1-to-1 deal with a publisher and a brand, that brand can say, yes, if you air me, don't air me. Like these are the other brands that can't be in this pod. That's great, but it can't happen in the programmatic space. The other thing that cannot be controlled today in CTV outside of doing a direct sold is a do not air list. So you might imagine, again, we'll use Nike as an example. Nike might have a list of shows that they don't want to be on. As one example, they might say, I don't want to be on Naked and Afraid. Those people don't wear clothes, they don't wear shoes, it doesn't fit my brand, it's not going to be relevant to me. I don't want to be on that show. And in CTV today, they can't do that. Spoiler alert, these things are coming in the future. There's people who are thinking about how to solve this problem, and it will be solved. But this is one of the major things that's preventing brand spend from shifting from traditional linear television over into CTV, because you don't have the same controls that you have on both sides. And as you've seen in some of my previous videos, you don't have the same measurement and verification. And now some of the more table stakes, the things that you should be able to have as a brand, the controls you should be able to enact on, aren't there yet. So these are the things we're moving towards in the CTV space, the things that are going to move those dollars over and make us as a whole, as a industry, more compatible with traditional linear television, and that's where the money's going to start flowing. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.